About learning. We have the basic Mikdash immediately. And the Refuah Shlema from Yechiel Nassim Ben Sarah, David Halevi Ben Menachad Lester, Sarah Basara. Let's start Beis Amid Beis. We're up to Rabbi Elazar and Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag.
Thank you, Hashem.
Thank you, Hashem. I'm in a different volume, so I don't have that paper in this. Come on.
Figured coming off of Halcham, Hashem.
Yeah. Levi's listening. Okay. On the first day of Sukkot, we mention the rain. We thank Hashem for the rain, according to Rabbi Elazar. Yeshua says it's the last day of Sukkot. The last day of Sukkot, we really mean Shmini Atzeres. Okay. Gemara is a question. They have in the yeshiva. They have this question. Rabbi Elazar Mehecha Gamala. Where does Rabbi Elazar get this from? Where does he get that it's the first day of Sukkot? So the Gemara comes up with two options. Milulav Gamala, Nesach Gamala. Is he associating it with the lulav, which is done on the first day of Sukkot, or is he associating it with the Nesach the pouring of the water? The pouring of the water was, I don't think that was done on the first day of Sukkot, according to most opinions. I thought that was done only from the second day of Sukkot. That night on Yom Tov, they couldn't do it, right? What was the Gemara Sukkah? Do I have Sukkah in here? No. Yeah, thank you. No. Okay.
The Quran says all 7 days that it was done.
I remember from Sukkah that on the first day of Sukkot, they went down. They in the early morning. They went down to the stream and they got the water. They were up all night. Oh, no, that's what it was. They couldn't. They weren't. Were they up? They drew the water. But that depended if it was Shabbos. Okay, whatever the case is. No, they don't. The Nisach HaMayim is not from Luv. What we're saying over here is the mentioning of the water. One second. The mentioning of the water from heaven, right? The rain, is that coming from associated with the lulav is the first day of Sukkot, or is it associated with the Nisach HaMayim is the first day of Sukkot? So the Gemara answers. I'm sorry.
What's the connection?
What's the connection to lulav? We're going to see shortly that just like the lulav can't exist, or all the four species can't exist without the water. So we're going to mention the water. We're going to hold this up and say like Exhibit A, we need the water. So the Gemara says, Milulav Gamala, Ma lulav bayayim, afaskara bayayim. Now we're going to make a distinction between how we're learning it. Is it from the lulav or is it from the Nisach HaMayim? If it's from the lulav, then when are we going to start mentioning Mashav Rachmari Geshem? That's going to be in the morning because that's when we shake the lulav. Or maybe we'll learn it from Nisach HaMayim. Just like the Nisach HaMayim was done at night, it doesn't mean it was done at night. I think it means they started to collect the water. They would start in the middle of the night to go down from the steps to go down to the stream to get the water. See, there's a problem over here. If you have this girsa, the Amar Mar, which is not so clear, Rashi quotes it. Rashi says, Yesh Svarim, that has this Amar Mar. If you accept this girsa of Damar Mar and Chasim and Eskayim, you end up with a little bit of a problem, because what we're saying is that if I bring a carbon by day and I didn't get a chance to do the libations, I can do it by night. If that's the case, libations, the pouring of the wine and oil. the oil and flour that's mixed. That's those. It's called nesachim in the Hebrew. So the problem is over here that how we getting to the first night. We're trying to say that we start saying Mashav Ruach on the first night of Sukkot. Now, if it's the lulav, then it's the first morning of Sukkot. If it's the Nisach HaMayim, so then it would be the second night of Sukkot. So we say Minchasam and Escape. No, it's the Nisach, but the Nisach HaMayim could be, but Nisach in general could be at night. So which means we should start at the beginning of Sukkot. Not the Nisach HaMayim wasn't at the first night of Sukkot. That they didn't do. Unless Reb Daniel, you say yes.
It's what it says here. I don't know.
I have Taisvis actually points this out. He says, "Vim kain hech krevin nesachem balayla retzalemer balayla shnia v'nesach hachag habi mimayim matzam have balayla rishayna ein menaschem mayim b'chag al b'tamid shel shachar and kain lo have a balayla rishayna dein ela b'yayim." They could have done it by night. That's what we have to say. They could have done it by night. Okay, whatever the case is, the Gemara is asking, according to Rebbe Lezer, do you start saying Mashavach Geshem the night before, the first night of Sukkot, or do you start saying it the morning of Sukkot? Tashema, so come and listen. Damar Rabavo. Comes along Rabavo. Rabavo was this a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. He says, Leilamda Rebbe Lezer elami lulav. Rebbe Lezer only knows it from lulav. Okay, so we only say Mashavarach according to Rebbe Lezer in the morning. Ikadamri, that those that say Rabavo Gemara Gamerla, Ikadamri Masnisin Shmiela. It's a question where Rabavo knows this. Was it a tradition or was it a Mishnah? Yeah. A brisa. I'm wondering, like, what's the difference if it's a Mishnah or a tradition? Maybe it means a tradition means without a source. We don't have a source for that. And the brisa means that we have a source. So the Gemara says,
It says, it's a tradition which was the source of Rabbi Eliezer's opinion.
Right. No, but there's two options. Either it's a tradition or he knows it from a source, from a brisa. So what's the difference if it's a tradition or he has a source? I mean, that's the whole difference. Is there a source? Does he have a text that comes along with it? So the Tanya was taught in a brisa, when do you mention the rain? Rabbi Eliezer, you notice it doesn't say Gvuras Geshamim. Isn't that interesting? Rabbi Eliezer, Mishas Netilas Lulav. When you shake the lulav, that's when you mention it. That means in the morning. Rabbi Shua Mishas Hanachase. Rabbi Shua says when you put the lulav down.
He actually says like Morida Geshem.
Yeah, in the Shmoneh Esrei of the day. That it doesn't mean that just as you put it down, you say Mashavarah.
When it's brought down that it was from tradition, does that even like mean anything? Like it has to be sourced.
It means that we can't challenge it if it's a tradition. Yeah, it's because
Usually it has to be backed up by like scripture or something.
No, it's if it's backed up by something, then we can say, well, we don't have to learn it like that. Maybe it really means something else. And if it's a tradition, then we're stuck. Yeah, that's what Gemara says that im Kabbalah in the Kabbal. If it's a tradition, then we'll have to accept it. Very good. What does Rabbi Shua mean, Mishas Hanachasa, when you put it down? It sounds like it's not Shmini Atzeres. It sounds like it's Shvi. It sounds like it's Hoshana Rabbah. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Hoshana Rabbah. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, which is different than our Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Hayil Barba Minim Halal Einam Ban Melal Lirtzei Salamayim. These four species are just coming to appease Hashem, to give water Kshem sharba mina malalu yefshe ben b'lei mayim kach yefshe loylam b'lei mayim. Just like these species can't exist without water, they can't grow. So to the world can't exist without water. So that's what we're doing. We're holding up these four species, and we're saying, just like these need water, have mercy on these. Hashem, give the whole world water. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says, "V'legeshamim b'chagei nosim klala." But rain on the holiday of Sukkot is a curse. We said before. It's like Hashem saying, yeah. It's like Hashem saying, I don't want you to sit in the sukkah. We're mixing the wine for the king, for the master, and he throws it back at you. We're coming to the sukkah, and he tells you you can leave. Yeah. Amalai Rabbi Eliezer, Afani le'amarti lishal el lahasker. Rabbi Eliezer says, I never said to ask for rain. You're right. We're not asking for rain. We're just mentioning, we're praising Hashem. And he says, Rabbi Eliezer goes on. He says, "Kshem shetchias amesim masker kol hashana kula vein ela bizmana kach maskin gvus kasham kol hashana vein ela bizmanan." Look, tchias amesim, which was the following, which is the conclusion of that bracha. You say tchias amesim the whole year. Why? Because whenever tchias amesim is, that's going to be good. So to the rain, you can mention the rain the whole year if you want. You can mention it the whole year. Well, he can't be suggesting that you actually are mentioning it the whole year, because he says you begin mentioning it from the first day of Sukkot, which means that obviously we're not mentioning it the whole year, else there's no beginning. But what he's saying is that theoretically you could say it the whole year if you want to. This is the time when you're supposed to. That's the time when you're able to.
But don't we say it on Shmini Atzeret?
We do Shmini Atzeres, which would be the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua of our Mishnah.
Mm-hmm. So therefore, it would sort of work out because it's Sukkot, and we still say.
Yeah. So that was Tais's question on the top. He says that we end up with a problem because we sit in the Sukkah Shmini Atzeres and we're already saying.
Well, it's kind of like it's not.
You just get a little wet.
We don't say a bracha on the lulav, I think,
right.
Shmini Atzeret, right?
Right.
So in a way, yeah.
Okay.
When it says exchange speeds makes a nice Alashana, is he talking about Maribel?
He's talking about Mechayim Mesim. Yeah. Mechayim Mesim Ata. I understand, but so is Mashavruch part of the bracha. Mechayim Mesim Ata Rav Leishia Mashavruch Meir Geshem. Or Meir Atal. Right. So he's saying just like what we say Maridatal, even though we say Maridatal the whole year. So we also say Mashav, we also say Mechayim Mesim the whole year. And theoretically you could say Mashav Meir Geshem the whole year also.
So the idea is that even though we know that Tchias HaMesim is going to happen at a much later point, we're asking for it already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to say.
We're thinking that Tchias HaMesim is going to happen now.
Trying to say Maribel first.
Oh, the Tal of Tal Tichya. That's what you're saying. That's interesting, Pshat. I'm sorry. Okay.
Wouldn't it be more appropriate to say Morida Tal the entire year, because the Tal continues all year long?
Yeah. That's the Gemara on the next page. That's very good.
Okay.
Yeah. Baruch Shekivanta.
Get a trophy.
That's right. Yeah. Jonathan saying you get a trophy. Okay. Rabbi Yomer. So, Rabbi Eliezer is telling us this, that we're not asking for rain, we're just mentioning rain, and that you can do the whole year. So for whatever reason, we do it in its most appropriate time, which is during the winter months. On Sukkot itself, it's not good. All right, we're not asking. Rabbi Yomer Ani. Interesting. I say, no one really mentioned when you stop mentioning the rain so far, and besides for Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah, they only said when to start. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yehuda had said something about Pesach, when to reach till Pesach. But in this brisa, Rebbe comes in and says that I say that you should stop mentioning the rain when you stop asking for rain. Which day is that? I assume it's Pesach. Yeah, if he's following the other opinion. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira B'sheni b'chag humasker. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, when you start asking, you're not asking, when you start mentioning rain on the second day of Sukkot, it means the first day Chol Hamoed. Right in time for the Chol Hamoed trips. Start asking for rain. Rabbi Kiva b'shishi b'chag humasker. You'd say it on the sixth day, the day before Hoshana Rabbah. Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Yeshua Imer. This is going to be problematic. Rabbi Yeshua we already had. He says, the person that goes to daven for the Amud. What were you saying, Daniel? You mentioned something about Over.
Oh, the poem I sent you.
Oh, that's right. Okay, very nice. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't respond. Very nice. We'll have to share it with the group. So, someone goes to the Amud on Shmini Atzeres. So it goes like this. Ha'achron masker. The Baal Musaf, he says, Mashav Rochamer de Geshem. Harishan Eina masker. The Baal Shachris does not mention Mashav Rochamer de Geshem. By the way, what did Rabbi Yeshua say in the Brisa? He said the day you put the lulav down, which is not this Rabbi Yeshua that Rabbi Yehuda is quoting. It's not going to fit. Rabbi Yehuda here is saying Shmini Atzeres. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda. Who is it? Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Yeshua is saying Shmini Atzeres. This is similar to our Mishnah. When it comes to Pesach, though, the Baal Shachris mentions Mashav Rochamer de Geshem and the Baal Musaf doesn't. The Gemara now goes back to discuss what we mentioned before. Sha'apir kamalei Rebbe Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. Rebbe Lezer responded to Rabbi Yeshua correctly. You know what he says? Tchias HaMeisim you say the whole year. Why can't you say Mashav Ruach the whole year? Amalach Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua responds to that. I understand Tchias HaMeisim. Whenever Tchias HaMeisim is going to happen, it's going to be good. It's going to be the time. Rain, whenever it comes, is its time. Rain is not always a good thing. Rain, if it comes in the wrong time, could be a bad thing. It's not this manva. Tanan, we have a Mishnah. Yatsa Nisan v'yardu geshamim. If Nisan passes and it rains, simin klalahim. That's a curse. Shenemar halek tzerchitim hayayim. It's when the Jewish people asked for a king, to Shmuel and Avi, and he was not so happy about that.
Right.
He says it's going to make it rain then, which would be like a curse. It means that rain is not always a good thing. Tchias HaMeisim would be a good thing. So Rabbi Yeshua rejects Rabbi Eliezer's view. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, and now we're going back to discuss another opinion. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira and B'sheni b'chag u'masker. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, remember Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira from Psachim? He was the one that told the non-Jew. Oh, he was the one that told the non-Jew that there was a non-Jew that was eating from the Korban Pesach. So he told him, next time you go, you should ask for the tail. And when he got there, they said, who told you to ask for the tail? He says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. They said, something's fishy here. They looked into it. He really wasn't Jewish. He was coming just for the Kiddush.
Right.
So yeah, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he lived in Netzivan. And the Gemara says his arms like stretched out, his grip stretched all the way to Yerushalayim. So anyway, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, that possibly there were two Yehuda ben Beseiras. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says on the second day of Sukkot is when you start to mention the rain. Now the question is, where's he getting that from? My time to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. What's the source? the Tanya, yeah, where you're gonna see it up there, you're gonna have to look at the other chart because that's the Amiram. Is there? Check for the other chart. There's two charts. There's one's Tanaim and one's Amiram. Where would it be? Yeah, let me look at this.
Who are we looking for?
Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So that Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira that was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash would have been up here, but I don't see him up here. The Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira that's arguing with Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua would probably be over here. Maybe he lived very long. That's the question. But did he just live very long, or? But he would be somewhere on this line. Okay. So where's he getting this from? So the Tanya was taught in a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Imer Nemar b'Sheni v'Niskayim v'Nem b'Shishi and Sacher v'Nem b'Shvik Mishpatam. Yeah, if you know the Torah reading for the Cholamayid Sukkos, so they you have to pay attention because they end differently. Min chasam v'Niskayim unsacheha and kamishpatam or kamishpat, they end differently. But whatever the case is, there's an extra 3 letters because of those different endings, which spell the word mayim. Hari mem yud mem, water. And that's the source for the Nisach HaMayim. But where's our first mention of an extra letter? Where do we first have the first extra letter? That's on the second day. It says V'niskehem. Should say V'niska. That's most of them say V'niska. Here it says V'niskehem. So Harei kan Mayim. We can remember the Nisach HaMayim in a Torah. Maishna b'sheni dinakat. Why does he say on the second day? Because that's where it's alluded to the first time in the Torah. It's hinted to on the second day. That's where this starts. Yeah. So on the first mention of the Nisach HaMayim, that's when we start to mention rain. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira would be really like Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. Just the question was, remember we had a question, Rabbi Eliezer, do you say it because on the first day because of the lulav or because of the Nisach HaMayim? Turns out that you say it according to Rabbi Eliezer because of the lulav. According to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, it's on the second day, it's because of the Nisach HaMayim. That's the first hint to that. Rabbi Akiva b'shishi b'chag u'mazker. Yeah, it's on the 6th day. B'shishi unsacheha. It has an extra hey. An extra yud, rather, not extra. It has an extra yud. Usually it says v'niska. There's an extra yud. Now, that's a plural. The extra yud makes it into a plural. There's 2 libations, the wine and the water. How do you know one's water? Maybe they're both pouring wine. I don't know. White wine, red wine, sweet wine, dry wine. I don't know. 2 types of wine. Savalak Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. No, he's accepting Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira's view. Dama Remizi Maya, that says that there's an allusion over here to the water. He's not just taking a plural of unsacheha. He's saying that unsacheh is a plural, and we also have an extra mem yud mem, which spell mayim, which is water. So Isav like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, name Kavasei. If he's accepting Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, so why doesn't he say it on the second day? Because the second day was the first allusion to the first time it alluded to the pouring of the water, not the 6th day. The 6th day is the second time it alludes to it. Why doesn't he start saying it on the second day? So, so it turns out that V'niskehem is a different sort of plural. V'niskehem is a plural of a subject plural as opposed to an object plural. You follow? Okay. Should I explain? No, we got it. Yeah. Yeah. So it could be that each carbon had 1. Doesn't mean that there's 1 carbon that had 2.
This game would be all of their Sacha. Sacha would be all of our Sacha.
Yeah, all of it's Nesachim. Right. Okay. Yeah, when I have to say something like that in the yeshiva, I say, do I say I went to the store or me went to the store? Or he took me to the store or he took I to the store? Otherwise, they don't follow the. Okay. So, Kosova Rabbi Akiva, we have to answer up. Why does it say unsache? Why is he saying from unsacheha and not from the first time that it hinted to the water? So, Kosova Rabbi Akiva kiksiv nisach yiseir b'shishihu tiksiv. That when do you have the extra pouring? That's mentioned only by the sixth one, because the other one we could translate the way we just said. You could say that it's just multiple nisachim because of the multiple karbanos. Okay. Okay. What are we left with over here? We have Rabbi Yeshua's opinion in the Mishnah was Yom Tov Rishon Shel Chag. I'm sorry, Rabbi Eliezer's opinion in the Mishnah was Yom Tov Rishon, the first day of Sukkot. We have Rabbi, who said the second day? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said the second day. We have Rabbi Akiva that says the sixth day. We have Rabbi Shua the Brisa that says the seventh day. And we have Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah that says the eighth day. The only thing we're missing is 3, 4, and 5, right? Yeah, basically, every day of Sukkot is another opinion. So Tanya was taught in a brayser of Nasanaimer Bakodesh Hasich Nesach Sheichel Hashem. B'shnei Nesuchim Akasim Medaber Ech Nesuch Hamayim V'Ech Nesuch Hayayin. Reb Nassan says that when it says in the section of the Carbon Tamid Bakodesh Hasich Nesach Sheichel, right, that there's a libation, a pouring of wine for Hashem. That means the double expression Hasech Nesach. The double expression is telling you that there's two pourings. One is wine and one is water. How do you know one's water? Maybe they're both wine. My hasech nesach. How do you know one's wine, one's water? Maybe they're both wine or both water. It says, well, hasech nesach. It says a different expression. That means that they're two different things. We only have two options. We didn't have Coke. So it's wine and water. That's the only two options.
Oh, so you both of them as well?
Yeah.
Which one would you do first?
Well, it turns out that really the wine was an everyday one. There's just an allusion to the water, which was done one period of the year on Sukkot, but that was on a regular day. It was just the wine. Mani. Who's the opinion that holds Nisach HaMayim was all 7 days? That's Reb Daniel. That's the source for that. Reb Yeshua. If it's Reb Yeshua, so Neim Echad Yaima. It's really only 1 day. We're thinking over here that because Reb Yeshua says that you only ask for water on the 7th day of Sukkot. Well, Shmini Atzeres in the Mishnah, but the 7th day of Sukkot in the Brisa. So then it would only be 1 day. We're thinking the pouring of the water is only 1 day. Rabbi Akiva, if it's Rabbi Akiva, then it's Trei Yaimei. He only has it from the 6th and 7th. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Shita Yaimei. If it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he only starts on the 2nd. But we have a Brisa that says, or Mishnah actually, that says that it's 7 days. And according to these Amiraim, at least if we're going to match up when they ask for rain with the pouring of the water, it's going to come out that none of them say 7 days. So it says, Leilam Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Svilik Rabbi Yehuda de Masnisim. Really, it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah is not Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi, is a student of Rabbi Akiva. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah, in our Mishnah, Rabbi Daimer Belug in the Mishnah in Sukkah. Belug hayemanasach kol shmaina. they would use a lug to pour for all 8 days. The only thing is, mapik rishon a mile shmini. According to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, you drop the first one and you use only the last, and you insert the last one. So it turns out that it really is 7 days, but you start at 2 and you go to 8. And that's how you have Nischa Mayim for 7 days. Maishna Rishon Deloy, why don't you have it on the first day? Why? Because the first allusion to water is on the second day. So you don't pour water on the first day, on the Mizbeach. Shmini Nami, so why do you have the 8th day? The last allusion to water is on the 7th day. So if you only can pour the water on the days that are in between those remes, those hints to water, so it should be in between 2 and 7, which will only be 6. Ella Rabbi Yeshua, rather it's Rabbi Yeshua. And even though he only asks for water on the, he only mentions water on the 7th day, or on the 8th day, Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa, it's not telling us. Whatever the case is, he has a halacha l'moshe misina, he has a tradition that the pouring of the water in the Beis Hamikdash was actually for 7 days. The Amar Rabami, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Mishum Rab Nechunya Shpikas Beis Chorsan, Esen Netias Arav Nischa Mayim halacha l'moshe misina. We have 3 halachas that are halacha l'moshe misina. The problem is that where is he getting that it's Rabbi Yeshua? I mean, if you're going to tell me that it's halacha l'moshe misina, then the chayra could be any of them. So Rashi mentions that Rabbi Eliezer, you're right, it could have been Rabbi Eliezer, that would have been an easy one. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira and Rabbi Akiva, we had a problem with. Yeah, because of the way they were learning based on those words in the pasuk, so they didn't want to. The Gemara doesn't want to say that it's Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. We're more comfortable saying that it's Rabbi Yeshua, because with Rabbi Yeshua you can explain it like this. You can say, really, Rabbi Yeshua holds that you should mention the wine, not the wine. You should mention the rain at the beginning of Sukkot. But we postpone it because it's a siman klala on Sukkot. So if that's the case, then the pouring of the water was really the whole Sukkot. And that, how many days is it? 7 days. It's halacha l'moshe misina. So with Rabbi Yeshua will fit perfectly. That's what the Gemara is doing here. Now, what are the 3 things that we have in the name of, and Rabami saying in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, in the name of Rabbi Nechunya Shpikas Beis Chorsan? The 3 things are Esen Etiyas. Esen Etiyas is a Mishnah in Masechta Shviyos regarding Shemitah, that there are certain crops that you're allowed to water all the way up until Shemitah, because if you don't, they'll die. Now, really, there's today it doesn't apply. Today we hold Shemitah only from Rosh Hashanah, but in the days of the Mishnah, and even in the Mishnah itself, it was adjusted. But in the early Mishnayos, there's decrees on the 6th year that you can't do work in the field on the 6th year, because that's really 7th year produce. So if you have like young crops, you can't really do. Anyway, it turns out that if you have saplings, 10 saplings in a field, you can still water them all the way up to Rosh Hashanah, because they won't survive. They're still saplings. And it's a leniency that they had in that rabbinic decree that that 10 saplings in a certain area, you're allowed to water. That's one halacha that was that it can't be halacha l'moshe misina. Yeah. So how is that possible?
Here it says it is a halacha l'moshe misina.
It says halacha l'moshe misina. But how could they get rid of it later? Well, that's what I'm telling you. But yeah, I'm not sure. I have to look that up. I'll look it up in the Mishnayos over here. Yeah, the Ram. Nisach Hamayim, that's what the piece that we're looking for. No, so there's only two things. No, I missed Arava. Arava is the Arava that they put on the side of the Mizbeach in the Chibat Arava. However, that celebration is done. It's a Gemara Sukkah. That's a Halach Lamesh Misina. The willow that's on the side of the altar. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Imer Mishum Rabbi Yeshua Ha'ivah Lefnei Ateva B'Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag Ha'achron Masker Rishon Eina Masker B'Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach Rishon Masker Achron Eina Masker. Now, this is the Brisa. This is not the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah says the same thing, but he doesn't mention in the name of Rabbi Yeshua. In the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda, who's Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi, he says that the Baal Shachris on Shmini Atzeres doesn't say Mashav Ruach Mer Geshem, but the Mal Musaf does. And on Pesach, the Baal Shachris says Mashav Ruach Mer Geshem, but the Mal Musaf doesn't. And what does it say? Ha'ivah Lefnei Ateva? Yeah, what's the difference of Daniel between Ha'ivah and Ha'yored?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're going to the behind the siddur and looking at the sources behind before the siddur was created. That's before the Arizal, yeah, but not only before the Arizal, before the earliest siddurim, which was 700 years earlier than that, and then we're looking at those at 700, 500, 600.
It used to be
Siddur about Amram Gain probably.
the prayer leader the location would be lower, right? Would be physically lower, right?
Yeah.
Would it
That
be?
would be Yared.
Would they daven from the same place on Yom Tov?
Oh,
Also.
interesting. I don't know. Reb Daniel suggesting that maybe it has to do with Yom Tov. That
No, Rosh Hashanah, they said here.
in Rosh Hashanah they said Yared. Yeah, there goes that. Have to match this up. Let's see. Very interesting.
Rosh Hashanah, we're crying. It's the market, so you're lower down.
Maybe the other Yom Tov, maybe Sukkot, maybe the Shalish Regalim.
Where's the difference?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, hey Rabbi Yeshua, we have a problem over here because Rabbi Yehuda is mentioning Rabbi Yeshua. We're asking which Rabbi Yeshua. Now, I wouldn't have had any problem with this. I would have said it's the Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah that says that it's Shmini Atzeres. What's the problem? Yeah, the Rabbi Yeshua says on Shmini Atzeres, you start to say Mashav Baruch Mer Geshem, and Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you start from Musaf. But the Gemara doesn't accept that. The Gemara says, hey, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua de Masnisan, Ha'amar b'yom tov ha'achron shel chag u'masker. He says, on the last day you say it. Rabbi Yehuda also says, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, that you say it on the last day. The only thing is that in the Mishnah, we were assuming that it was the Baal Shachris. Rabbi Yeshua didn't tell me clearly that it's the Baal Musaf. That's starting it. So we're saying, which Rabbi Yeshua is it? It can't be Rabbi Yeshua of our Mishnah. So Ella Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa must be Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa. 1 second. But that can't be the last day because he says that you start saying Mashav Ruach when you put the lulav down, which is Hishana Rabbah, which is the 7th day. And here we're saying it's the 8th day, Yom Tov Achron. Besu, we have another problem. Hadatanya Rabbi Yehuda Mishum ben Beseira. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of ben Beseira. The one that davens on the last day, he's the one that says Mashav Baruch Mer Geshem on Shmini Atzeres. Hey Ben Beseira, who's the Ben Beseira? Ilay Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. If it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, B'Sheni B'Chag Masker. If it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, we said that he says on the 2nd day of Sukkot you say it. Remember? So what's going to be our teretz? One answer is going to answer this whole thing. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Tehei Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira. It's Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira. Usually he's not mentioned. Usually we have Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. We had in Rosh Hashanah we had the Bnei Beseira, which may be Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yeshua. Zimnin the Karle B'Shmei, Zimnin the Karle B'Shmei da Abba. Sometimes he's called by his name, sometimes he's called by his father's name. Depends if it's before he got a smicha or after he got a smicha. And we never called Reb Naftali by his father's name. Reb Naftali got his Dayanis yesterday. We should have called him his father's name. Okay. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira, what is his opinion? That he holds similar to Rabbi Yeshua, who's Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania. That's the student of Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. That it starts on the 8th day of Sukkot, on Shmini Atzeres. The only thing is that Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania held that you start for Shachris. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira holds that you start at Musaf. Yeah. Okay. Can we start a new Gemara? Tana. Someone mentioned this before. When it comes to dew, and when it comes to wind, like not V'sein Talamat, Mayrid Hatal or Mashiv Haruach, there's no obligation to mention that. But if you want to, you could say it. My timer. What's the reason why it's like this, that you don't have to, but you can? Rab Chanina says, because they never stop anyway. There's always wind. The wind is caused by the different fronts and the tides and the atmosphere, and there's always wind. I'm sorry?
Coriolis.
The Coriolis effect, right? Yeah, that has to do with the way the water moves in the toilet, right? In the northern hemisphere, that's what they claim. I don't know if it's true.
Sorry?
It has to do, yeah. Right, has to do with the different temperatures. So there's always going to be wind, and there's always going to be dew, because the solid material loses its heat quicker than the air does. So the condensation is always going to be on the grass or your car or windshield, whatever. There's always going to be dew, so that never stops. But even if there's, it depends how much water vapor there is. Vital minalan delay miatzer. How do we know what's our source? Rabbi Chanina, by the way, is Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. He's a teacher of Rabbi Yochanan. He's a student of Yehuda Nasi. He was the one that was supposed to take over the yeshiva after Rabbi Yehuda Nasi passed away. But Rabbi Office, if you remember, we had a Gemara. Rabbi Office was older, and he took over first, and then Rabbi Chanina took over after Rabbi Office passed away. So where do we know that the dew doesn't stop? Yeah, this was at the Shiva for what was his name? Chiel or something. He built up the city of Yericha and his children died. So there was a decree from Yeshua that no one should build it up. And as he built it up, another child died. So Achav tells Elio, apparently the decrees of Yeshua are more significant than Moshe Rabbeinu, because when it comes to Yeshua's decree, I see that Chiel's children passed away because he was a builder, he built Yericha. And but when it comes to serving Avodah Zarah, which Moshe Rabbeinu said that the sky is going to stop giving its rain, we all serve Avodah Zarah and we have enough rain. So Elio responds, he says, Chai Hashem, by the life of Hashem, I'll stop the rain. There'll be no rain, there'll be no dew. But then it says, after there's a famine for 3 years, he says, I'll return the rain, but he doesn't say I'll return the dew. Tal, he doesn't say he's going to return. Why? My timer. Because that never stopped. The dew never stopped. So then why did Elio mention it? To Gesund. Hachi Karmelei, afilu tal de bracha nami leyasi. He mentioned it because what he meant was the dew of blessing wasn't there. See, the dew is very important. That little bit of moisture is very important for the plants, but then it could also be dew of that's not positive. So ulahadre letala bracha. So then why doesn't he say that I'll return the dew of blessing? If the dew of blessing stopped, so then why doesn't he return that? He says mishum d'lei minkar milsa, because he wouldn't be able to prove that that's what it is. Okay. Rucha is minolan de lematzri. How do you know that wind? In other words, what happened over there was he was going to make a statement to Achav that I stopped the rain, I'll start it, but he wouldn't have been able to show that I stopped the dew of blessing. I started the dew of blessing because there was always dew there. It wouldn't have been recognizable what he was doing with the dew.
This ties into what we were talking about before about the 3 keys.
Oh,
So when he had to revive a child, and
so he had to give back the rain.
the key of the rain, right? Yeah. Because Ahab was trying to console Chiel, trying to say, no, it's not because of he violated the words of Yeshua. Like even the words of his teacher are not
really?
true. Yeah, so,
I thought it was like a question about it. Oh, you're
no,
saying
so that's
consolation.
Yeah, and Eliyahu got really mad. He was like outraged by what Ahab was saying. And then later when Ahab says, who's coming there? Like troubler of Israel. Ahab is accusing.
Yisrael.
Yeah, you're accusing me of being trouble. It's because of you. You're the one that caused the rain to stop. It's like very intense. Yeah.
Right. But Chiel was obviously a character. I mean, after the first child dies, I mean, that should have been in the second one, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. I mean, he really doesn't get the hint.
He was the one also that was trying to.
Or maybe he had more than that. Oh.
He was the one that was trying to get the fire of the Avodah Zarah. When
and he was under there. Yeah.
He was the one that was under. He got killed by a snake. He was not a good guy.
So now, Rucha is minolan d'lei matzi. Where do you see that the wind doesn't stop? There's always wind, and that's why you always say Mashav Ruach, or you can always say Mashav Ruach. I'm Rabbi Shua ben Levi Damakra. Pasuk says, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Ki ka'arba ruchis hashemayim pirashti eschem num Hashem. Like the 4 winds of the heaven, I spread you out. My Kamalu, what is he saying? If this is Zechariah, is he saying that I spread you out into the 4 corners of the world? It shouldn't say like the 4, it should say in the 4. In the 4 corners of the earth. Rather, it means this. Just like the world can exist without wind, the world can exist without the Jewish people. Reb Chanina says about this, if in the summer someone says Mashav Ruach, not Meir Geshem, just says Mashav Ruach ein machzir naisei. He doesn't have to repeat the Shemon Esrei. Amar Meir Geshem, but if he says Meir Geshem, then machzir naisei. That's a problem. You don't want rain in the summer. If in the winter he doesn't say Mashav Ruach ein machzir naisei, it's not a problem. But lo yamar Meir Geshem, if he doesn't say about the rain, then machzir naisei. Then not only that, even if he uses another expression, causes the wind to pass, and he sprouts the dew. Oh, he removes the wind. The opposite. Thank you. He removes the wind, and he stops the dew. Also, ein machzir naisei. That's also not a problem because I guess it's meaningless. I guess you can't stop that. Okay, I guess we have to stop here for the day. Okay, have a good day, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rab. Beautiful.